Well, thank you for having me speak tonight. Please continue to eat. Don't let me stop you. First thing I'll do is I'll show you, everybody has a folder in front of them. Take a look at it. On the front we have the slides, so if you do want to take a note, there should be a pin there too. And if you open it up, I'll go over a couple things with you. On the front left cover, there's a little survey questionnaire just to see how we did. Please fill that out, and then I'll be collecting them at the end. And you want to do it because we have a prize at the end, and we're going to draw from these. So everybody, please fill one out. Of course, you can wait till I actually speak to do the ratings, but go ahead and start filling it out. Or just give me good ratings all around, and that'll work too. There's a referral form. If you hear something that you think, oh, that's a good idea. It may not necessarily apply to me, but I know the perfect person who does for a referral group, so I'm asking for your referral. That's what we do. And then behind it, the third page on the left side is investments and services. This just kind of tells what we do at Edward Jones. There's a full list for a full financial services company. The other thing I'd really appreciate if you would fill out and hand back to me is on the right-hand side. There's a little thing that says, what keeps you up at night? And this is a piece that I love to give to all my clients because we all have that worry, whether it be saving enough, whether it be planning for the unexpected like we're going to talk about now, or anything that you can think about. Trying to fund education accounts for your kids, whatever you might want to do. You can fill that out. It'll be an additional chance to win the prize, so fill them both out. And then there'll be some other stuff. We'll talk about that as we go. And on the very back of the right-hand cover, it's just our monthly magazine. You can read. The topic is putting China in perspective. There's a stock table list of stocks that we like, and just a little insight. We like to give a little insight every time. And as we're getting started, who's ever been to the restaurant Lambert's? Has anybody ever been to Lambert's? What are they famous for? They throw the rolls, right? So everything's better when something's thrown at you, right? It's more exciting. So because we're preparing for the unexpected, be paying attention because you never know when a baseball will be thrown at you there. So be ready to go because that's part of being prepared for the unexpected, ready to take on anything. So all right. So getting started, it's kind of a strange place to start, but we're going to start the conversation about a beach vacation. Do you guys have your favorite beach locations that you like to go to? What's somebody's favorite beach location that they like to? Delaware. Can't say I've been there, but you get a ball, so hey, that's a good throw. Yeah. So, you know, me and my wife, we look forward to going to beach vacations. We don't get to go as much as we like. You know, our favorite's probably Destin. White sand, warm water, and we love it. We look forward to getting to go there. But one of the important things to going on a vacation is packing, being prepared. So everybody packs up their bags. Being prepared is very, very important. And you know, if you pack, we all pack similar things. We'll have our sunscreen, towels, all that stuff when we go to the beach. Camera, swimsuit, all that other stuff. So you have to pack. So how many have children in here? Who has children? I have a daughter myself. You know, packing is more important, especially for young children. You got to pack extra and take time to think about what they're going to have. So we bring that up. We're going to introduce you to a family. It's important that that when you travel places, you know, food allergies are prevalent, and people are getting more and more aware about food allergies. And so you might go to a restaurant and they'll say, this product has been contacted with whatever, peanut oil, whatever. So and I was on a flight the other day in Southwest, and you know, usually they give you your peanuts and your pretzels. Well, this flight it said pretzels only. There's somebody with a peanut allergy. So we're starting to be more aware of that stuff as we go around. So we're going to introduce you to a family. If you'll, oh, we got locked out here.
Looks like you got somebody else's computer there. I don't know how to hijack that.
So, next slide, we're going to introduce you to a family. This is the Williams family, Jennifer and Todd. You can see they have 3 kids. Ellie, who's 10 years old, Mike, Pete, and Timmy are the kids, 14, 9, and 5. Well, Ellie is their daughter, and she has a big food allergy. And so you can understand that the big thing that they do is before they make a trip, part of their packing process is to make sure that they have an EpiPen for Ellie. So if something bad happens, they're prepared. And Jennifer, the mom, always packs an extra. So they always have 2 in case for some reason the other one gets lost or something, they have a backup. So one time at the beach, Ellie had a bad reaction to some food. And, Ellie thought that she had packed her EpiPen in her beach bag, but lo and behold, she didn't. But luckily, the mom, Jennifer, had the extra EpiPen in her purse. So literally could have been a life and death situation, but the mom went ahead and had the EpiPen. And the whole point of the story is it's uncomfortable to talk about because Ellie could have died, but she was prepared. So she prepared for the unexpected. Even though it's uncomfortable to think about her daughter dying because of such a thing, that doesn't stop her from preparing. So this situation was averted. The family was fine. And often because of how uncomfortable we are with the subjects of death and disability and things like that, we don't adequately prepare because it's uncomfortable to talk about. So, you wouldn't avoid buying a fire extinguisher or changing the batteries of your smoke alarm just because it's uncomfortable to think about your house burning down in a fire. You're going to go ahead and do those things to protect yourself. So what I want to do is, for this very reason, talk about how we apply that to our family finances. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, and thank you for listening. And my computer keeps locking up, so we're having time changing slides. Talking too long on each slide. So if it locks up again, you can just type it in. Thank you. So we often say we can predict, but we can't prepare. Since an unexpected event can completely derail your financial strategy, part of providing for your family's future is developing a proactive strategy to make sure that you have financial resources in case something happens. So next slide here. Before we go much further, I'll tell you a little about me. A lot of you know me. I've been with Edward Jones for going on 2 years now, and the reason I became a financial advisor is because I like to help people learn about and find ways that they can protect their financial strategies and make sure they get the most out of their finances. And money management can help you pursue your short-term and long-term goals, whatever it may be. And what I do is I have, the person sitting next to you may have very different goals than you do, but what I have is a consistent process that I like to go through to take my clients through to kind of learn more about them. So first, you have to have a clear outlook on your future. So the first step is to evaluate where you are today. So you can see number 1, where am I today? To know where you're going, you always have to know where you're starting from, right? So the first important thing I do with all my clients is see, well, where are we today? And that's different from everybody in the room. Some people are younger, just getting started. Some people are older and wanting to protect what they've already saved and earned over time. So that's kind of how we start out. And only then can you begin to set a clear and measurable goal. So where would I like to be? A lot of people think investing is save as much as I can to earn as much as I can. Well, that's not necessarily true. I would argue that you want to set goals and have the right strategy to achieve those goals. And goals aren't to have as much as you can, but have as much as you need, is what I would say. And so when your goals are determined, evaluate if they're realistic. So can I get there? And this determination is based on the amount of time you have to invest in the investments you're comfortable with, so your risk tolerance and your time horizon. So, we like to talk about it's different strategies depending on how long you have and how much risk you're willing to accept with your investments. And a trusted financial advisor can help you decide which solutions and strategies can help you work toward your goals. So again, how do I get there? That's where we come into play. Knowing more about the solutions and strategies available can help you make more informed decisions about where your money is going and what it's doing for you. Preparing for the unexpected, whether it be providing for families or protecting what you have, that's one of my primary concerns I hear from clients. So I should have put the timer on that a little longer. I need to talk faster, one of the two. So, but you have the slides in front of you too. So it's important to note that, and then of course once you get there, how do I stay on track? You know, that's where you periodically evaluate where you're at and how your goals have changed over time. See where you're at, how do you stay on track, and make sure you're making adjustments along the way. You know, it's not, you don't have the same goals when you're 25 as you do when you're 45. So you got to make those adjustments as you go. So it's important to note that each element of your strategy should help you plan for the unexpected, plan for the expected, and position your portfolio for both expected and unexpected life challenges. We're all going to have them from time to time, so that's making sure we have those set up. So life is full of unexpected things that happen: job losses, illness, unexpected loss of a family member. Those can profoundly impact your family and your financial situation. So by preparing for the unexpected, you'll put yourself in a better position to keep your overall strategy from veering off course and to keep that strategy alive. So today we're going to specifically address some risks that you may or may not be aware of, some strategies or tools for addressing those risks, and what processes look like for my clients, and the types of life changes that may indicate a need for review. So next slide. To get us ready, we're going to take a short little quiz. It's called the preparedness quiz. It's just a fun quiz. We're going to do true or false. I'm going to ask the question. Say true if you do this, raise your hand. False if you don't, raise your hand there. So question 1, do you have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen? Or we'll just say your house. Who has one? So see, you never know when they come up. So who doesn't? Who doesn't? Okay. You don't get a ball if you don't. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so question 2, I know where the tire jack is for my spare tire. So if something happened, oh, bad throw, ends with a bread basket. So we'll get one way back in the bag. It's always more fun to throw stuff, right? Oh, bad throws. That's going left-handed too. So who doesn't know where their tire jack is for the car?
Figure it out.
Don't know.
How do you figure it out? Flat tire, I'll take the damn car apart.
So yeah, the guy that washes his car the most doesn't know where his jack is. All right, next question. I have checked the batteries or checked the functionality of the smoke alarm in the last 6 months. Who does that? Oh, see that? Oh, that was a no look right there. You see that? I don't know if I've done this one. Ours are wired to the electric, so who hasn't checked it? Who doesn't do that type of stuff? So there you go. Next question. I can find my stocked first aid kit in under a minute. So who has one and who can find it quickly? There you go. So everybody knows where they're at. You can find it. Who can't? I can't, but I know my wife can. So hopefully I can find her in under a minute. So, and then question 5, finally. I have an emergency preparedness kit, whether it be food, water, whatever.
That'd be a bug out bag.
Yeah, a bug out bag, yeah.
What is an emergency preparedness kit?
Well, in case, like, if you have a storm shelter, do you have like water in there and food and yeah.
Food and refrigerator, right?
Yeah. Anybody have that? Anybody have like the doomsday kit or whatever? So yeah. Yeah. Whoa. So who doesn't have the doomsday kit? So we don't have some of those. The next slide. So add up how many true and falses you had. Do we have anybody that said true to all 5? Anybody? Do you remember? Think about how many you answered true to. Who said yes to all 5? That's worth a ball. Yeah, that's worth a ball. So probably if you have all 5, based on those questions, you feel prepared, right? And if you said no to a lot of them or false, you probably don't feel as prepared. So now think about if I had the same type of little quiz for you about your finances for a moment. If I were to ask you these 5 questions about your finances, how confident would you feel that you're prepared? I mean, would you guys feel confident? Hopefully you do. It's much more important to note that I'm not asking how much money you have, but do you feel prepared in case a life event happens? So, next slide. That's what we're going to talk about a little further. When I work with my clients, I'm helping him or her develop a strategy to help achieve their financial goal. My goal is not only to help them, but to keep them on track and ensure that unexpected events don't derail what they work hard to achieve. So, next slide. Remember, your strategy isn't complete unless you prepare for the unexpected. So that's what we're talking about today. That means addressing some basic key risks that can impact your strategy. Some of these risks are ever present regardless of your life stage, and we can prepare for these by having emergency funds. Others will involve your life. As your life needs change, they're going to evolve over time. And so, for example, as you prepare for retirement, the focus may be on having items in a place to provide for your family if something were to happen, such as life and disability insurance. But as you near retirement, the focus may shift to protecting what you have and making sure that you can live in retirement and not run out of money. So just know things are going to change. So for the purpose of today's discussion, we'll focus on the risk and needs as you still prepare for retirement. But if you're interested in learning more about how to protect what you've worked for, then come see me afterward and we can talk about estate questions and things like that. So to get us started, let's consider a common everyday household emergency preparedness item. I mentioned earlier, a fire extinguisher. You hit the next slide here. So many of you have them in your kitchen, like we said earlier, or in your house. And so you never know if and when a fire can start, but if it does, you need quick access to have an extinguisher. And it may take a different type of extinguisher depending on the type of fire, grease fire or, electrical fire are different. So I'm not an expert in extinguishers by any means, but I can address what we recommend in terms of preparedness for a financial fire. So it can be caused by any unexpected job loss, like we talked about earlier, a significant house repair, your roof goes out, you need a roofer. We know who to talk to. And it can be caused by any one of these things. So here are 5 ways you can prepare for the foundational risks. So number 1, as you can see, is emergency fund. So fortify your emergency fund. If you guys don't have one already, get one started. Take the steps to set one up. The amount you should have in there in your emergency funds depends on where you're at in life. So it kind of changes on where you're at. If you're still working and preparing yourself for retirement, then you probably want 3 to 6 months saved up in case of job loss, things like that. You guys have probably all heard that before. But what you may not have heard is when you get close to retirement, you want 12 months saved up. The reason being is when you start applying for some Social Securities and Medicaid and Medicare, that stuff doesn't just happen overnight. There's delays to get that started. So the emergency fund is your last line of defense. In other words, a financial fire extinguisher, because you want to have that fund there so you don't have to touch long-term assets. It's very expensive if you're not at retirement age to touch long-term assets. The IRS penalizes you, and it costs you a lot of money to access that. So number 2, that's number 1 is emergency fund. Number 2, next slide, is a line of credit. This one you guys may not think about as much. If you establish a line of credit, if something were to happen, this we can look at as a smoke detector. It can help you expand the last line of defense. So if you exhaust your emergency fund, it gives you an area to go to that you don't have to dip into your long-term assets again. In other words, it can help supplement your emergency savings if needed. So, next, homeowners and renters insurance, right? many of you guys have, you need to review your asset and liability protections. If you have a mortgage, you most likely have homeowner's insurance. If you rent, you have renter's policy. If you own a car, then these policies, they offer many ranges of protections, features for replacement costs, stolen property, all that stuff. Make sure you understand your coverages. If you don't understand the protection and features of policies, or if you're carrying enough coverage, talk to an expert. Talk to Amy. She gets a ball for being the expert right there. See that? Yeah. Yeah, I know. So talk to Amy. Understand your coverages. Make sure you're covered if something were to happen that's adequate for what you need. I'll be the first to admit I don't understand my policy. Amy probably knows I don't know everything about my policies, but it's something that you need to know and have reviewed from time to time. So next, investments. So the fourth area to address is investment risk. While the markets are going to have up and downs, and the up and downs attract the most attention, you know, you'll hear on the news that the stock market shot up or it sank like a rock or something. All these exaggerated words to talk about fluctuations in the market, right? So they get a lot of the attention, but the way you react to these declines is really the biggest risk to your strategy. So one of our key goals is to help you make sure your investments and your investment allocations remain in line with your goals and your risk tolerance. A properly constructed portfolio helps you address some of these risks. Your portfolio should generally include a diversification of your investments among stocks, bonds, and cash. Success isn't tied to one company or one investment. That's how you get into trouble. You want it diversified. You want a makeup of quality investments with a proven track record. I can't stress that enough. There's always a hot trend stock or something out there. You can never go wrong with quality. You know, invest in a Procter & Gamble paying a 3.5% dividend with great growth potential. Invest in somebody that's been around for a long time, paid dividends for a long time. That's one of the most important things you can do. Focus on your long-term goals, not your short-term fluctuations. Your accounts are going to go up and down. You guys all know that. Don't overreact to the ups and downs because you don't ever lose the money until you sell the investments. If it goes down and you sell it, you've lost it. If it goes down and it goes back up, you never lost anything, right? And determine how much risk you're willing and able to take in advance. So hopefully this will temper emotional response to the inevitable fluctuating market. It's going to do three things every day. It's going to go up, down, or stay the same. There's nothing else it can do. So it's always going to move. Finally, next slide. The face of healthcare continues to evolve, especially with the Affordable Care Act, right? And you guys being small business owners are probably well aware of all this stuff. But depending on your employment and health situation, there are options to address healthcare costs, may be available, including, you know, employers if you're employed, COBRAs, or private insurance. As you get closer to retirement, Medicare becomes a factor. When that comes, work with your financial advisor to understand how that impacts your living and retirement strategy, because it does. Make sure you talk to somebody about it, as well as items such as addressing long-term care costs, which are not covered by Medicare. So long-term care with, you know, facilities for assistance, those aren't covered by Medicare. Each of these 5 recommendations is meant to address certain financial risks, and regardless of your stage, remember that the way you prepare for the unexpected may change as you move through your career, grow your family, or acquire more assets. So, next slide. With that in mind, let's talk about some strategies to consider if you're early or mid-career, caring for children, paying a mortgage or other loans, saving for retirement, planning to pay for a child's education. So that probably includes most of all of us, right? Somebody falls in that field. So at this stage of your life, providing for your family's future is often the overriding focus, right? You're wanting to plan that future. In other words, you're currently making your focus on growing your assets as you move closer to retirement, and your focus may shift toward protecting, like we mentioned earlier, the things you acquire as you get further along in that stage. So for this part of your life, preparing for the unexpected really means finding ways to replace income in the event of death or long-term disability. So death and disability are uncomfortable topics to discuss. Can we all agree? Nobody likes to talk about it. But ignoring them could lead to a much more uncomfortable situation for your loved ones, just like ignoring the EpiPen or the extra EpiPen. It's a bad thing to think about, but you have to be prepared. So you wouldn't shy away from making sure you have a spare tire just because the thought of a flat tire is unpleasant. So why would you shy away from this? So these are basic tools to help you to use, but ignoring the risk doesn't make it any more real. So next slide, life and disability insurance. Your death or long-term disability could leave your family without the ability to cover your financial obligations. This is especially important for business owners who work on their own. They're the providers for the families. You only get paid if you're working. You're the business owner. So if something happens to you, where does that leave your family? So life insurance and disability insurance are potential solutions to help address those risks for providing income in case of loss of your loved ones. So many of you may have already have some of these insurances, either individually or purchased through an employer. Let's talk about two important considerations here. How often should you review those policies, and how much coverage do you need? So does anyone want to venture a guess for the first question? How often should you have it reviewed? And Amy can't answer.
Yearly.
Yearly? Annual? Well, our recommendation.
Every time there's a change in your circumstances.
Right, there you go. You get a ball for that.
Every September when
Yeah.
annual enrollment comes out.
So our recommendation, and you can ask Amy what she recommends, we say every 3 to 5 years, or if you have a major event like having a child, getting married, or any other major life event. So 3 to 5 years is usually pretty good, in our opinion. Ask Amy what she thinks. So each of these life events, if you get married, have a child, can not only, change what you need, it also may give you different options of insurance to better suit your needs as those changes happen. So, and the most important thing, and I think Amy would agree, is make sure you have the right beneficiaries for your policies. It's not enough just to have the policies. How many times Ken's probably seen when a divorce happens and the ex-wife or the ex-husband's still the beneficiary on the account? Well, they get it. I mean, that's how it works. So make sure you have the right beneficiaries set up. So as far as how much coverage you need, there are different ways to calculate how much that you might need on your term or permanent life insurance. There's two approaches that we like to use. One, you can use your current salary, and we generally suggest coverage amount 7 to 10 times your current pre-tax salary. That generally gives you 15 years of income needs on an after-tax basis. So the other approach is estimate your family's needs, called the needs approach. Consider your family's expenses, present and future, and include your mortgage, education costs, day-to-day living, and anything you might need to provide for them. So what we recommend is using your current salary estimate may be good, but the needs approach is the one we recommend. The current salary doesn't take into account your age, specific needs you may need to cover. The needs approach actually talks about work with your financial advisors and talk about what you're going to need in the future and conduct a thorough review of what your family needs. So often when we talk about life insurance, what we never talk about is long-term disability. So there's more things than just passing away and passing money to your kids. Again, you guys are the ones working. If something happens to you where you can't do your job anymore, you still need to replace that income, right? And so you can do long-term disability insurance. So it's important to not be forgotten. So for disability insurance, you may want to consider purchasing an individual plan, or if your employer has a plan, you might want to supplement it to as much as you can to match your after-tax income as possible until you reach age 65. So plan out that it'll pay out till age 65 to provide for your family. So, as noted earlier, be sure that you understand the protection and features of your policies, just like your homeowners and car policies. Make sure you understand your life insurance policies and what they actually cover and what they don't. And especially disability, you want to make sure it's covering what you expect on long-term disability insurance. So, and again, remember, get those reviewed every 3 to 5 years, and if a big life event happens. moving on, family resources. In the end, the whole reason we're doing all this stuff is to prepare for the unexpected. Is really about protecting the ones we care about, right? It's not about buying insurance or doing this or that. It's making sure that the people that we care about are protected. And we care about taking steps to make sure the strategy you're using to pursue your long-term financial goals doesn't get derailed. So making decisions about how to deal with unexpected events before they happen gives you the power to choose. If you choose not to decide, someone else will be making the decisions for you, and they may not necessarily reflect your wishes. So 2 things to consider here. If something were to happen to me, who would care for our children, right? And if I were to pass away or was unable to make decisions, what would happen to our assets and resources? So that's the family planning part. The solutions required will depend on your specific situation, but be proactive. That way you're in control of it. That way somebody's not making decisions on your behalf. That's why it's important to talk with a tax or legal professional. Go see Ken. He can help you set up a trust or an estate plan and make sure that you have it set up so it goes exactly according to your wishes. So for instance, your strategy may include power of attorney, healthcare directives, or a will. It's important to identify beneficiaries in your accounts and make sure by law that the beneficiaries receive the assets. There's no contestant on a beneficiary. It goes straight, I think Ken would agree, it goes straight to the people listed. So talk to Ken, he can help you with that stuff. Once you've set your strategy, don't forget to review. You may need to update your legal documents from time to time. And beneficiaries, people do have more kids. They do have more grandkids that they want to share their assets with if something were to happen to them. So make sure you update them. And if you haven't made arrangements or if this sounds complicated, there's help available. Talk to me. I have resources. Talk to Ken. Talk to your tax professionals. We can set up a strategy. So we've covered quite a bit today, ranging from foundational finance risk to some of the potential risks that may result if your life and needs change over time. But I want to address your questions in a moment. But before I do, I'd like to share with you a quick list of action items to get you started preparing for unexpected. So next slide. Yeah, right here. Detail your current financial situation. Again, the little circle with the 5 steps. This is number 1. See where you're at today, right? This should include your income, living expenses, assets, debt, including any money set aside for emergencies. This is the first step in the process. In other words, we need to find out where you are today. Number 2 is fortify your emergency fund. If you don't have one, get one started. Take the steps to set one up. Remember, your goal is to have up to 12 months worth of living expenses by the time you retire, and it'd be nice to have 3 to 6 months now. I realize that doesn't happen overnight, but proactively start. That's a good way to hedge that risk. Consider a line of credit as backup. We talked about that already. It helps supplement your emergency savings if needed. Review your assets and liability protection and insurance policies. Pay close attention to coverage limits, features, and impact of significant life events that you may experience. And then work with your financial advisor to address investment risks. This is on the next slide. Yeah, sorry, I'm there. Yeah. Stay well diversified, and again, stick with quality. You get what you pay for quality, and focus on your long-term goals. So determine what your goals are before you start randomly investing, just trying to make money. Set a goal, stick with quality. Review your medical expense coverage, weigh your options of saving versus insuring against potential medical costs. So it may be a lot easier to have insurance rather than just save up lump sums in case of medical emergencies. Consider your life and disability insurance options. Work with a specialist to help you assure that you have the right amounts and types of coverage. And then take proactive action to address questions about guardianship and how your assets will be handled in the event you pass away or unable to make decisions. I can't stress that important enough. It's a big decision that you want to worry about. Don't put that off because you never know. Unfortunately, I had a client that was 42, passed away unexpectedly. It happens. Unfortunately, in my business, I see it all the time. And when things aren't set up, it's heartbreaking to see the families have to go through that stuff. So, and then again, continue to review. You always want to review, make sure things are set up how you want it. That's not a one and done thing. Your life changes. So, next slide. Completing these actions can help you determine what you need to address. Also, in your packet, I've included a worksheet and a report called Preparing for the Unexpected. That's on the right hand of your folder. I know I've given you a lot of paper, but take it home and look over it. They're designated to help you think of specific items you may need to address. I recommend you take a few minutes. I don't need those back. Take a few minutes, read the report, work through the worksheet with your spouse, and kind of use that as a plan of action of what you need to get done, what you're missing, fill in the gaps. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to meet with you one-on-one to discuss your needs. That's what I do, so I'm happy to do that for you. The good news is you don't have to do it alone. You have tax professionals. You have, just in this room, you have Amy for your insurance purposes. You have legal professionals. So everybody here in the room, you don't have to do it alone. You have people here that can help you. So don't feel like you have to.
Let's give Chris a round of applause.